Okay, here we have our review for summative number 7 in Algebra 2 in the spring semester. And this first section is going to be a repeated section from quite a while ago. It's back in summative number 2 that we saw this last. So let's revisit how to do different polynomial operations, starting with adding. So just like always, if there's two problems of the same kind, I'm just going to do the first one, and then the second one is left for you to do on your own. Just be careful that you're adding the like terms only. So like for instance, there's only one x to the third term in the problem. So I'll write down 7x to the third, but then I'm going to go for a little hunt for common terms. So like for instance, negative 9x squared plus positive 9x squared, those will actually cancel out to nothing. So I won't write anything down for that. The linear terms, which are your x's, we have 4x plus negative 18x is negative 14x. And then finally you have some constants. We have negative 12 plus 7, which is a negative 5. The answer can technically be in any order. This is called standard form, so that's the one I like the best. That's the one I'm going to leave it in. Okay, I'll leave 1b for you. Oops, I'm skipping ahead too far. Back up. My computer's spazzing out. Hold on. Not everybody's awake yet. Okay, now this is the one I'm very, very concerned about, the subtraction, because I've seen a lot of the same mistake happening over and over again. So this subtraction sign is going to be distributed to everybody in the second polynomial, and that's actually how I'm going to start the question. So I'm going to lose the parentheses because I'm going to go ahead and distribute. So we have 15x squared minus 9x plus 8. That doesn't change, but then this becomes a minus 7x squared, and then negative negative will become a plus 3x, and then this is on negative 5. Now I'll go through and collect all my like terms, starting with my x squared terms, which are the highest exponent. So adding those together, 15 plus negative 7 is 8x squared. And then for my linear terms, my x's, I have negative 9 plus 3, which is negative 6x. And then here at the end, you have plus 8 and then minus 5, which is 8 plus 3. So again, answers in standard form are my favorite, but technically any order would work. Just really watch your distribution of the negative, and I think some of you are not taking the time to distribute the negative and then rewriting it out, and that's where we're having some problems. Alright, 3a, very good question to do right before the SAT test. When you have a binomial squared like this, you have to first rewrite it as two of the binomials multiplied together, because that's really what it's saying. And then it's a game of distribution. So 2x times another 2x would be 4x squared. And then we have 2x times negative 3, which is negative 6x. And then we're going to keep distributing. So negative 3 times 2x is another negative 6x. We'll take care of that in a minute. Some of you are very competent in your operations, and you can do some of this in your head, which is awesome. Negative 3 times negative 3 is plus 9. So the only thing I expect you to do now is to look at these green terms in the middle, and because they are like terms, I want you to add them together. So 4x squared minus 12x plus 9. There we go. So all your answers in this section should come out to be like standard form polynomial answers. Oh, here, the big kahuna. Its distribution is just a little bigger than normal. So we have x times x squared, which is x to the third. And then we have x times x, which is x squared, so positive x squared. And then we still have x times 7 this time, so positive 7x. I'm going to keep going, so I'm going to take the forward, I'm going to multiply him by everybody in that second polynomial. So the 4 times x squared is positive 4x squared. So rather than keeping my writing going really horizontal like this, I'm going to write it right underneath the other x squared term, so that way they're all lined up. And then 4 times x is plus 4x. And then finally, the 4 gets multiplied by the last term, which is 4 times 7, so plus 28. Now notice 28 doesn't have any other like terms to combine with it, so just kind of write it off to the side. And then if you've done a careful job of lining everything up, now you can just add up all the like terms because they're sitting on top of each other like this. So you have x to the third, plus 1 plus 4 is plus 5x squared. 7 plus 4 is plus 11x. And then plus 28. I just realized my mic was turned around backwards. Hopefully you could hear me this whole time. Here we go, that's better. Alright, whatever. Move it along. Oh, this question. This is actually why a lot of people got a 3 on this section last time as opposed to a much better score. We were missing some components of this question. So profit is defined, for this experience at least, as taking your revenue, which is all the money you take from customers, and then subtracting any cost that you had to pay for. So what I would like you to do is even put the word cost in parentheses, because this is the problem we kept having. All right, the price of one mug. So price is something that we charge the customer, so that's, you're going to be looking at the revenue function. So if I look at the revenue function, the price of the mug is how much money it costs for every mug that they buy, so it's $13. Now to find the profit function, you're going to use this formula right here where you take the revenue function, which we just saw was 13x, and then we're going to subtract the cost function, which if I keep reading is right here, but I'm going to put parentheses around the cost function. And we have that same issue of distribution that we saw in the previous question, where if we're subtracting a polynomial, you have to remember to subtract every term in the polynomial. So I'd like you to take the time to rewrite it as 13x, and then minus 6.25x, and then a minus 400. And then the only thing I'd expect you to do here is to clean this up a little bit. 13 minus 6.25 is 6.75. X minus 400. So common mistake I kept seeing last time was the not distributing the negative, of course, but also people were leaving the x off of the 13, because I think you're getting a little confused with question A versus question B. I'm looking for the functions to be written down in question B, so be careful there. So now C leads in from the function. The profit can be found by taking 6.75 times the number of coffee mugs that you're going to sell, which is 2,000 in this question, right here. And then we're going to subtract 400. So cranking this in my calculator, I get 13,100, I believe. Okay, pen. Work, buddy. Okay, pen. Any day now. Okay, so it's 13,100. Okay, so that is a repeated section, and I do expect some much better scores this time. That'd be great. Now this section, I'm going to have a hard time helping you review for it, because it's very individual as far as the answers go. So I don't really want to do these questions for you, because I don't want you guys all to copy my answers. How would you describe a situation in your school that you would require a survey, and how will you distribute the survey? Explain how it's randomized and unbiased. So very key process here. Make sure that you are just using a sample of your school. You cannot tell me that I'm going to give the survey to everybody and then it's unbiased because I gave it to everybody. That's not going to be an acceptable answer, and you will not get a good score for that. So decide what you're going to give a survey about. We just did a worksheet on this, so a lot of you did things like music at prom. I'm going to ask only 100 seniors what they want for prom music, or someone talked about school uniforms. Somebody talked about, I think I did at one point, talked about, the homecoming date. Which homecoming date do you want? As far as like which date of the calendar year do you want, not your date. So you're going to have lots and lots of writing. The idea of it being random means you're probably going to include some sort of a system, meaning a computer, a random number generator. You're going to somehow line up everybody and then count off every third person. And then the fact that it's unbiased is basically because the person who's running the survey, which is you, doesn't have any impact as to who gets surveyed. And also the population and the sample match. So like for instance, if I was doing the prom music question, I wouldn't bother asking the freshmen what kind of music they want to see at prom, because they are not going to prom. So that would bias the survey results, because kids who have no interest in prom are going to be answering it. So watch the population versus the sample. That's key there. So basically you're writing me a short essay. All right, this next question. For a stats project, a group of students wanted to find out how many students intend to get a summer job. They decided to give the survey out to a random sample of students. How could they distribute this so the results are random and unbiased? So again, the answers are going to vary here, but the same idea. You want to make sure that you incorporate some sort of a system for handing out the survey, and that also the population and the sample is appropriate. So like again, the freshmen, not to dig on freshmen, but they don't get jobs because they're too young, so don't bother asking them. So answers are going to vary on that section. Let's talk about probability. So there's 3 types of probability I'm going to ask you off of a contingency table. I'm going to ask you about an AND question, I'm going to ask you about an OR question,
and then I'm going to ask you a conditional question with the word given in it. So this is what I would like to see when you do this question. So when it's an AND probability or an OR probability, you don't restrict the data, meaning your total is going to be the big total from the chart. So 128 is your denominator in both of these. That is not true for a conditional probability, so we'll come back to that one in a minute. Now when it says find the probability of selecting somebody who is normal weight and female, this is where you just go to your chart and you find that one group of people who are both normal weight and female. So that would be these ladies right here. So 14 out of 128. You can reduce that if you'd like. I think it comes out to 7 over 64. All right, so for ORs, it's a little more complicated. I'm going to take a look at totals, and then I'm going to subtract any sort of overlap. So the total males would be over here, right? 68. There's 68 men in this survey. And then total underweight people would be, let's see, where are we at here? Underweight 30. But we have counted these 5 underweight males twice, so I need you to subtract 5 from it. So whatever this number is becomes your numerator. What do we have here? 93, I think. There we go. And of course, you can try reducing all these fractions. And this next one is where I want you to highlight. So given male, you're going to take your highlighter and you're going to highlight all of the male data. And that is the only data that you're allowed to use. So the denominator is the total of the males, which is 68. So this time out of 68, out of these 68 males, what's the probability that somebody is normal weight? And that would be 18 out of 68. So again, feel free to reduce that if you want. That's 9 over 34. I'll take decimal answers as well, but you know, whatever. All right, leave 3 for you to do. And this question, I'm going to need you to really concentrate on the percentages and kind of showing your work. It doesn't say to show your work, but this is how you're going to justify it. So one survey reported 45 people preferred Papa John's. So for Papa John's, 45 out of 120 people said Papa John's was their #1 choice. And that comes out to like 0.375. This time I would like decimals so I can compare them. The second survey, Pizza Hut was the winner. So that was 30. So Pizza Hut. 30 out of 101, which is approximately, let's see, 0.297. And then Domino's is 23 out of 63. So when I look at that, it becomes 0.365. And when they want to know the 2 businesses that we should choose from based on these survey results, I'm going to go with the 2 largest. So this one and this one. And your explanation is because it has the highest percentage. Okay? So there's a little note here at the bottom that says there's a whole page, a whole section of SAT questions. You have to get 3 out of the 5 questions right to be considered mastery on this test. But if you get 4 or 5 right, I'm going to give you a bump in your score and you're going to get extra credit. All right, good luck.